Hello, it's Electra Snow, and it's time for another, you guessed it, plant haul. Now again, I am going to be drinking in this video, but I'm not drunk for this one. The other one, I was a little bit over the edge on gin. I'm going to admit that now, but I'm not a role model to live your life by. I decided to change the names of these videos. They're not going to be alky hauls anymore. They're going to be called Haulticulture. That came from Josh Hinkins. His link is down in the description below if you want to go and follow him over on Twitter and all these social media links. But he gave me that idea. I don't know why I didn't think about calling this Haulticulture. But I think I was just trying to push the alcohol agenda because it's my coping mechanism for life. The last plant haul that I did, it seemed to do quite well and people enjoyed watching me talk about plants. It seems to be the thing on YouTube now. People are kind of becoming more natural on camera and expressing things about who they really are instead of this show business life of we're all perfect when really we're all broken inside and dying. True but true. But yeah, so a lot of people did enjoy my last plant haul and it was kind of a test in the water thing, saying I'm going to do them monthly, and that is something I am going to continue. Because people enjoyed it, why not? Because if you can see in front of me, I don't know how this desk is holding itself up under all this weight, and this isn't even all of the plants that I bought. I said I needed some justification in making these videos to kind of clarify my addiction and give me an excuse, but a month later it kind of got out of control. On this table in front of me there is 11 new houseplants, and this isn't all of them as I said, but some of them I have already planted into my terrariums. Purely because I had them and I was building things and just doing things at the time, so I was like, right, I've got it, let's stick it in. So I'm sorry that they're not all here. I have got quite a selection here, and this all like appeals to my fashion sense and dark spooky personality. It's all quite gothic and weird as well, and one of them has die in the name, so take that as you will. So as I said, they're all kind of gothic, and you'll see as I go through there is a little bit of a theme with all of them. But I'm going to start with the biggest ones. And these I've always liked, and I've had a couple of them before, but I've never really been able to keep them alive for very long. But they are Rex Begonias. And as you can see, this one, you can probably guess why that appealed to me with that silvery leaf. But also if you look at it in certain lights, it has like a blue iridescent cast over it. Now, iridescence is a trigger word for me, so if I see it, I'm like, I must have it. But that's one of the things that I look for, is if something's weird and wonderful like this, then I'll pretty much pick it up. Now, there is another begonia. I don't know the actual Latin name for it, but it has this really, really bright blue sheen in certain lights. And this isn't that one, but it has got a little bit of a tendency to look like that in some certain lights. Now, I've just got this on my desk, and the thing that I've found with them, which I wasn't really doing before, is they like a lot of humidity, but they also like to dry out between waterings. So, what I have actually got in this pot is some pebbles in the bottom, which retain some water. It's just like the expanded clay pebbles, and they are the thing that's keeping a little bit more humidity around the top of this plant. Now, on the other one I'll show you in a minute, you'll see that there's a little bit more of the damage, but there is a few little brown edges, and that's the indicator that, that's the indicator that it's kind of lacking a little bit of humidity. And what I was doing before is kind of watering them a little bit too much. They're a bit of a weird one, Rex Begonias, and they like that kind of difficult space of putting in between moisture, humidity and drying out, if that even makes sense. But this one I've had on my desk for a couple of weeks now, and as you can see, no real problems. It's got a few little nooks out of the leaves and some little browning, but there's a hell of a lot of new leaves coming in the back of this plant, so I'm not too worried about that. The next one is another Rex Begonia, and this one was a little bit more battered, and it's kind of gone through a little bit of damage with humidity. Now this was in the reduced section anyway, so it's kind of coming back, but you can see more on this one. You can see the leaves at the front there, and this one here. That's what happens when they get the lack of humidity, which I've now discovered, and they kind of just shrivel up around the edges. Now this one, I say I don't know the names of these Rex Begonias. A lot of them have different cultivar names and stuff like that, so I don't know the full names of them. I just know they're Rex Begonias. This one is exactly the same species plant as the other one I just showed you, but this one is a red. Now all the Rex Begonias come in really, really brightly coloured leaves, and they're grown more for their leaves than they are their flowers. The flowers are pretty much insignificant on these plants. But this one has these lovely ruby red leaves, and this also has a little red iridescent sheen to it in the light. If this is put in certain light, they shine like rubies. It's really, really bright red iridescence to those leaves. So that is another Rex Begonia that I'm kind of recovering from it being in a reduced section. It's got a little bit damaged, but there is new leaves coming through the centre, so I'm not too worried about that. It should bounce back. Next one, the species of plant that's kind of becoming famous on the internet, is a Peperomia. Now this is a Peperomia Capred Luna, and it's got a really, it's started to like undulate towards the light a little bit, but it's got a really nice thick rhizome base at the back. It's a little bit wobbly, but there's a lot of new plants coming up inside of that, and it's got this little inflorescence coming through there as well. This is just next to my bed on the bedside cabinet. It's not really a full light plant, but I can see that it probably needs a little bit more light than I'm giving it because it's starting to stretch out a little. But it's doing really well, and it's got a load of new plants coming in through the back. So that is a little Peperomia. Now, as you've probably seen, you can see a little bit of a theme going on here. I've got a lot of really dark plants, and the next one that I picked up was this Neurigilia, which is a bromeliad. You can see it's kind of going in with the themes of the darker looking plants. Now this isn't an unusual rare plant, these are quite common, but not very many people usually put them on bark, which is something not a lot of people do with home decor with plants. They kind of just either leave them in a pot, or if you put them in a terrarium, you could do the same kind of thing. I decided to put it on a bit of bark, and these are fake Tillandsias, which are air plants, which I just put a little hole in and stuck them in there. Being as this is in a little bit of a darker place, I didn't want to put real Tillandsias on there. But there is a lot of new growth coming out of the centre of this, and I'm pretty sure it's going to flower because there is a new pup coming up just along the side of it. But that was just one that I thought, right, I've got a little bit of cork, I'll mount a little plant on there, and that's what I picked up to go on there. Now I have got 3 orchids in this haul because, as I said, they're my favourite, and I'm going to get to one of them now, being as it's kind of a little underwhelming at the moment, but this is a really special orchid. Now this is a Momerara Millennium Magic Witchcraft, and that's a bit of a mouthful of a name, but this is one of 2 in the world at the moment black orchids, jet black orchids. Now I'll include a little photo of what this plant will get to, being as at the moment you can see it's only a seedling, but this is a really, really special orchid. Now I paid a little bit of money for this, more than I probably should for a plant this size, but I see it and I was like, right, I've not got any black orchids. At the time I didn't have any black orchids, kind of black, but this it's something that I really, really look for. If the plant's got black flowers, being as I'm like spooky goth bitch, I'm really drawn to it. And black orchids are really, really rare. As I said, there's only one other one that I know of, and this is another one which I hadn't actually seen before. And with the name Witchcraft, I mean, hello. I'd be burnt at the stake if it was 1800s, but I had to pick it up. But this was off of the internet, and if anybody is interested in getting one of these, this isn't sponsored or anything like that, but you have to share the wealth because all ships rise in high tides. So if anybody does want to get one of these, drop me a message or something and I will give you a link to it. Purely because they are quite rare to get, but I can get hold of some of them. This is quite a rare orchid, and this is a deciduous orchid. It's a hybrid between a few different ones, but you can see there's a little bit of a pseudobulb there, and we've got this new growth. There was a few other very, very tiny growths coming on it. There is a couple, but I think it's putting most of its energy into this. Now, what I've read, these are a little bit of a feed hog, so they need a lot of fertilizer. Which is quite unusual for an orchid. Usually they're kind of like on the air of caution with fertilizers, but a lot of people have said that these do require a lot of feeding. So I'm going to grow this on. I don't know how long it will take. It'll probably take a couple of years before it's up to flowering stage. But that is something that I'm going to look forward to and kind of nurture along the way to see what I can get this to do. Fingers crossed it doesn't die on me, because seedlings of orchids are a little bit Temperamental. Back onto houseplants, I think you can just about see this one in front of me. Now this is quite heavy because I just watered it, but this is a Tratoscantia, and again you can see it's got a little bit of a Gothic theme going on here. This is a Tratoscantia zebra something. Latin isn't my forte, obviously. But this is a zebra Tratoscantia. Now they do a silver version of this, but this is the more purpley version, and this is a really, really dark one. Now this didn't come in this part, as you can see this was originally pink, which is quite triggering to me. But this came with another plant, and I just spray painted the sides of it, and then stuck that in there because everything has to be black because it's my happy colour. I have to be careful that it's not going to pull itself off of the windowsill, so I probably will go in and give that a haircut and stick the cuttings back in the pot or into another tank or something like that. But yes, that is the Tratoscantia, and it's kind of taking up a lot of the bottom of the screen. But we'll leave it there because I don't want to put it too close to the edge because, as I say, it's really heavy and I don't want it to pull itself over. Next one comes in a little hanging basket. Now this was in a hanging basket, but I pulled some of these out and again put them into a tank, and I removed the little hook thing that was on the hanging basket. But this is a lipstick plant. Now these are really, really unusual because by the name lipstick plant, they have flowers come out which are bright red. Some of them have different colours. So there is some different colour variations, but this one I believe is a red one. And they have these unusual shaped red flowers which look like lipsticks. So that's the name, it gets the name lipstick plant or lipstick vine. And this is doing really, really well actually, considering that I kind of deconstructed the pot and ripped out two of the main little plants that were in there. But I cut this one back because again, these do really, really start to grow long. And by cutting that back, that has started to make the top of the plant really start to bush out. So eventually, that back part there where I moved those plants, it is all going to start to fill in again. And I've just got this on the windowsill in my bathroom. It likes a little bit more humidity than some other plants. Quite a lot of humidity actually, I've found, because otherwise leaves start to drop off, and it's kind of a hit and miss thing. Sometimes you'll get some that will sit in a place and they'll love it, and then other times I've tried to grow on these before and it's kind of just lost a load of leaves and gone a bit weird. So I do believe that these like quite a bit of humidity, and it seems to be doing really well in my bathroom. So that is my lipstick vine. I mentioned at the beginning of the video that one of these plants has the name Dye in it, and this is a Dieffenbachia. Now this is a unusual little plant, and it is to an extent quite potently toxic in a way, shall we say. Now this is a plant which contains calcified needle substrate structures or something in its leaves. So if this is chewed, it has the effect of paralysing your tongue and mouth for a little while. So if you're like some kind of witch doctor apothecary bitch, then it's nice to have. I do believe that these are also classed as mother-in-law's tongues. I know they're not sansevierias, but I think it kind of goes on that juxtaposition of getting your mother-in-law to shut up. Not that I've got one, not that I ever will have one. There's a few different varieties of these. I did have another one which was a lot more white in the leaf. It was kind of like white in the centre and green margins. And I've got that kind of just like back to a tiny little root structure and one little thing coming out the top of it, and that's just in a terrarium at the moment. It was kind of a bit neglected by me, I'm sad to say, and it didn't get what it needed. But this one I've just got next to my computer, and it's grown a little bit leggy because it's going towards the light, but it's also got a lot of new shoots coming up in the bottom. So that is the little Dieffenbachia, and these are usually quite expensive. I've seen some of them go up to about £14. Usually they're around about £6.99, something like that. But this was actually in a little box of just houseplant mix. They're just a little square cardboard box which had a load of different houseplants in, and this was only £1.99. So I was like, yeah, I'll get one of them and give it another try. The says I almost killed my other one. And again, fits into the Gothic theme of having the word die in it, because we all know that we love death. Triggered. I'm not a Satanist. Now, you can see this here, but I'm going to save this one till last. Now, the next one is a ant plant. Now, I had been looking for these for a really long time. These don't come up very often in garden centres. They're not necessarily rare, but they're not a common plant. They grow really, really easily. They require barely any looking after, just a little bit of water now and again. They can tolerate a lot of drought. They can tolerate low light. They can tolerate a hell of a lot of conditions that you could put these little plants into. And I just think they're really, really unusual. And I like the weird, ugly things. I think the ugly things are more beautiful. And I'm really drawn to things like that. So you can see at the bottom of this plant, it's got this weird, gnarly bulb which is covered in spikes, and the spikes aren't sharp. I mean, if you get them on the right angle, they can prick you a little bit, but they're a little bit softer. This got a little bit damaged in the box when it came to me, and it lost its main like large leaves on the central shoot. Because of all the places I was looking for one of these, I never actually looked on eBay for one, and this is where this came from. Now this, as I said, is an unusual plant that's not very often seen, and it got a little bit damaged in the box, but you can see there's all new growth coming up, and these are new little ones as well. Now these are very easily grown from the little red seeds that they have come on them. They have little red fruits, and then in that fruit is the little seed, and they will pretty much germinate straight away. It has kind of like a little white coffee bean like flower comes along on the stem once it gets a little bit taller. Some of them actually flower down the bottom as well, and you'll get it on there, but it's kind of like a red berry which has like 1 or 2 seeds in it, and once they touch any moisture or soil, they pretty much germinate straight away. So they're not hard plants to grow, but they're seldom seen. And I have actually ordered another one from a different website, and I will probably be doing an unboxing of that because I bought quite a few plants on there which are very, very unusual in themselves, and they're all going to be going in terrariums. So I'll show you the other one that I've bought, which is a little bit different to this. It's got more of a smooth bulb at the bottom. Now this in the wild, beings as they are called ant plants, where these grow, these are epiphytic, so they will grow up on a tree. They don't actually grow upright like that. They're more likely to grow like that, and then the leaves will grow up out of the plant like that. But in the natural habitats of these plants, ants will actually colonize in that bulb at the bottom, because that has all kind of like hollow chambered structures through there, which looks like an ant's nest. Kind of a little bit disgusting if you don't like bugs, but also fascinating as well that plants do that. They have kind of like a symbiotic relationship of the ants survive and live in this plant, and then the dead ants or excrement or stuff actually fertilizes the plant from the inside out. Again, a little bit disgusting, but it fascinates me that plants have actually adapted to grow like that. So yeah, that is the ant plant, and as I said, I have another one coming, and I'll show you that in the unboxing video. Now on to the last two, and again, I mentioned about orchids. These are both orchids. Now, people might be surprised to find out that one of these is actually an orchid. I don't know why, but people seem to have this disconnect from where their food comes from. But one of these orchids that I bought is... and I did a little poll kind of thing on Twitter of asking people what they think this is. Now this is an orchid, but it's a special kind of orchid, and you've all tasted it. This is a... I said you've all tasted it, so you can make some guesses. This is a vanilla orchid, and this is the plant which vanilla pods come from. And this is very different to most other orchids that you'll find because it is a vine. As you can see, it's growing from this bottom of this pot, and I think there's 2 plants growing in this, which is sending up these really long vines. Now, I've never grown these before, and I know they can get quite long, and they'll grow pretty much over anything. And as I say, I'd never grown one before, never felt one before, and they're kind of succulent. They're a little bit like a phalaenopsis. These leaves very much remind me of a phalaenopsis, and they're really, really pliable, and it sends out these aerial roots which begin to connect onto anything that they can really grip a hold onto. There's one at the top of this plant here which started to wrap around that bamboo cane, and it's sending out loads and loads of aerial roots which are going back down into the pot. Now, I don't know how large I can let this get, being as I've only got it on a windowsill. And you can take cuttings from these. I can always take a cutting and put it in another pot, so I can get multiple plants, being as these aren't very often seen. I really would like to try and get this to flower and try and pollinate it to get some vanilla pods, purely because I think that's really the main aspect of growing a vanilla orchid. It's just the weird thing of having a plant which you can produce fruit from. It's no different to growing fruits and vegetables, but it's a little bit more tropical and a little bit more exotic. But this is doing really, really well in the windowsill that I've got it in. It's sending up so many new shoots from the bottom, and it's popping out all new shoots from certain eyes up and down the vine. There's aerial roots going everywhere, and I've only had this about 2 weeks, and that there has grown... I don't even know if you can see that on camera, but from the top of this cane here to there. That's grown all the way up to there now. So it's grown about 8 to 10 inches in 2 weeks. We have had quite a lot of sun here in the UK, so that's probably a good thing. And this next shoot has really started to take off as well. That was about down here when I first got it, but it's just grown crazily, and it's really starting to wrap onto that at the moment. As I say, I don't know how big I can let this get, purely because I don't really have much space for it, and it was a little bit of an impulse buy, because again, these aren't really seen very often. This again was off of eBay. Usually you only get like a little cutting, and they're quite expensive, but this actually did come in a pot with all of that bamboo frame structure, everything on there, and that was only $17.99. Now, I know that's a little bit expensive for some people to think about with plants, but for an orchid, a vanilla, and a plant which is not rare but seldom seen, that's quite a good deal. I've just destroyed it. There we go. I have seen people buy cuttings off the internet, and usually they'll come with 1 or 2 in the pack, and it's hit and miss with cuttings. Usually these will grow pretty much straight away because you can see the amount of roots that they have growing up and down the stem. But again, that's a risk, and they're quite expensive on their own, so it was quite a nice thing to have it come already in a pot. And again, don't buy things on impulse, but I did. Now, you've probably seen this throughout the whole video, but after I bought the black orchid, I went into IKEA of all places. Now, IKEA has houseplants, and they do have quite a wide selection of houseplants actually, which is surprising for like a department store. And they're not always in great condition. I mean, of course, they just get shoved into like the back end of Beyond and a little bit neglected. But in amongst the little miniature Phalaenopsis, they had a orchid that appealed to me. And I hadn't seen one of these before. I'd never seen a phal that was this colour. But this is a Phalaenopsis, and I believe the species is Black Buddha. Now, I grabbed this and didn't let it go for dear life, purely because I just bought one black orchid and then life's throwing another one at me. But this looks fantastic, and I, as I say, have never seen a black Phalaenopsis. Now, it's not black per se, it is more of a deep red maroon. I don't know what colour it's picking up on camera. It's probably picking up a lot darker than it is in person, but it's pretty dark. From a distance you wouldn't think this was purple. It's only in certain lights it gets that purpley sheen, and from like far away it kind of looks like a deep dark brown, but it is stunning, and it's got a really nice deep purpley tipped lip, and then it's obviously got the little white centre of the where the little pollen is. And you can see the amount of flowers that are going to come on this stem. There's already a little shoot coming out of the spike. There's all of these coming along there, and it's just literally not stopping. So I can see this is going to grow and grow and grow. Now, it's got a great amount of aerial roots on the bottom. Now, it's just in a little pot at the moment, which I put it in this. This pot's also from IKEA. I kind of grabbed that and grabbed this as well. And it's just in there. It's only in about I don't know, what's that, a 6-inch pot? But this was shoved in with the miniature orchids. This obviously isn't a miniature orchid, but it's stunning. And as I said, life threw one black orchid at me and then another black orchid at me. So I bought it, and again, impulse buys, which I don't tell anybody to do, but there is always room for more houseplants. Oh dear. I realised that my lipsticks looked weird throughout this entire video, and I've just noticed it at the end. Deal with it. These are now going to be named Haulticultures. Kind of a pun on words, as you can tell. Horticulture, or horticulture and Haulticulture. So that is going to be the new name of this series. Now, this has been the second one, and of course I will be back for doing a third one for next month. Being as people seem to enjoy these, I don't know why. Probably the sadistic thing of seeing somebody crash and burn surrounded by plants. But if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, bye bye.